Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Gift and you're welcome to Gift and See Culture. So in today's tutorial I want to show you how I made my beautiful dress, just like what you're seeing on the screen. Alright, so if this is something you want to learn, kindly stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is to go ahead and measure 1 inch, which is going to use as your top line. Alright, so away from that 1 inch, measure your bust point. So my bust point is 10. Measure your half length, mine is 17, and then your hip line, which is 8. That is away from the half length, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So mark it on both sides, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and connect it. So after doing that, go up to the bust point. Okay, I went ahead to label it. Alright, so go to the top line, which is the shoulder line. Divide your shoulder into 2. My shoulder is 13 divided into 2. I went ahead to mark my bust measurement, which is 36 divided into 4. My waist divided into 4 and my hip divided into 4. So my waist 36 divided into 4, you have 9. The waist 30 divided into 4, you have 7.5, and the hip divided into 4, you have 38. So I went ahead to connect the lines, just like what you are seeing on the screen. So from there I went up to the bust point and divide my bust span into 2. My bust span is actually 7.5, so I divided into 2, which is 3.7, and then connect the lines just like what you're seeing on the screen. Alright, after I was done doing that, I went up to my bust point and marked 2 inches upward and connect the lines. So that 2 inches is actually my chest line. So on that 2 inches, on that line, I'm going to go ahead and go to the shoulder and mark 0.5 inch to get the shoulder slope and connect the line just like what you're seeing. So on the chest area, divide your across chest across chest rather into 2 and connect the lines just like what you're seeing. So on the armhole area, the distance from your bust to your chest, whatever you have, you divide it by 4 and then connect it. So place your shoulder just like what you are seeing, your tape rather, and whatever you have, the distance from the chest line to the shoulder line, you divide it by 2, and then on the midpoint you go in by 0.3 and contour the armhole just like what you're seeing on the screen. So after doing that, go to your waistline, the distance from where you draw the straight line, whatever you have from your waistline to that distance, you divide it by 3. Alright, just like what you are seeing on the screen. Mine, I divided by 3. So after doing that, remember on this dress I'm not going to put that, so I'm just showing you the basic way how to initiate that into your dress. Alright, so if you're not going to sew that, if you decide not to sew that, I'm still going to show you the proper way to get rid of the dart. So on the bust point, go up and measure 2 inches, which is going to use as your side bust. Remember, the 2 inches is not standardized. If your bust is not, if you're not bust, you can use 1.5. If you are very busty, you can use 3 inches depending on your bust. So from what you are seeing, I've gotten rid of the dart, the side dart, and the bust span dart. So if you want to sew without that, you can still follow this method. Place your ruler and connect it just like what you are seeing on the screen. All right, go ahead and connect it. So after doing that, if you place your tape rule on your waistline just like what you are going to get your exact waist measurement, meaning you've gotten rid of the dart that was there. So I went to my shoulder line and marked 1 inch. It's sleeveless, so I have to remove like 1 inch. So it depends on you, can remove 1.5 and then connect it just like what you're seeing on the screen. Alright, so on the neckline I measured 3 inches. Sorry, I didn't know this place was not recording. So I measured 3 inches, and then from there, remember the style in front from the waistline is kind of, it's a box shape. All right, so I went down from my hip line and added 2 inches, making the total of 10 inches from my waist to where the length is. So I went ahead and measure my hip, place my and connect the lines. After I was done doing that, I went ahead to measure the depth of my neck, which is 3 inches, same as the width, remember, and I connected it just like what you are seeing on the screen. So I went ahead to add 1.5 inches for the seam allowance. You can see the way I placed my tape rule. I went in to the dart and connect and measure 1.5 just like what you are seeing on the screen. I did it like that all the way. You can as well use 1 inch or 1.5 depending on how you want it. So 1.5 is okay. So I went ahead to cut the paper, the pattern paper, and before cutting it, you can see I folded the side dart and cut. So from the look of things, we are done with the front pattern. So the next is going to be the back. So just like the method we use, measure 1 inch. From there, go ahead and measure your bust point. Mine is 10. From there, go ahead and measure your waist, which is 15. This is your back waist. All right, so remember, so I use 15 for the back waist. Remember my front waist is 17. So from there, you're going to go ahead and measure your hip line just like what you are seeing on the screen. So the reason I use 15 for my back waist is because my back measurement is shorter than my front. So instead of using 17 for front, 17 for back, I use 15 for the front, for the back, and then use the 2 inches as my side dart. I've already explained this on my previous videos. So after that, I went ahead to connect the lines and label shoulder line, bust point, waistline, and the hip line just like what you are seeing on the screen. For the back, I also used 10 inches from my waist downward. Alright, so from there, I went ahead to take my body's measurement, my bust measurement, my waist measurement, and my hip line and connected the lines just like what you are seeing on the screen. So from there, I also went ahead just like what I did on the front. I went up by 2 inches to get the across back line. And then connect the lines just like what you are seeing on the screen. So from there, I went ahead to measure my across back measurement, which is 14, and my shoulder line, which is 14 as well, and then connect the lines. After I was doing that, I measured my bust measurement on that across chest in order to get the exact measurement. So the distance from where I put the tape rule to my across chest, whatever you have for your own, you divide it by 2. Remember, for the front is 4, but for the back is 2. And then connect the lines just like what you're seeing on the screen. So after I was done doing that, I went to the shoulder line and used 1 inch to get the shoulder slope, then connect it just like what you're seeing on the screen. I hope you are following. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, alright, so you can always get notifications whenever I post a new video. So from there I went down by 2.5 inches. I went down by 2 inches rather, and then connect the lines. That's on my back neck measurement. Just like what I did, I added 1/2 inch for the sewing allowance for the shoulder joining, and then connect it just like what you're seeing. Please don't get confused. There was an error there. So instead of measuring it just like the way I did for the front, just go ahead and shape the dart out. So instead of dividing it into 3, I always divide it into 2. So I will use 1 inch for the back measurement and use 1 inch for the side measurement, just like what you're seeing on the screen. Hope you are getting it, just for you. But if you decide to use that, you can divide your bust plan into 2 and then share the dart into 3. But I'm not using that. I want it to be dartless, so I'm getting rid of the dart, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and I connected. So if you take your measurement, if you cross check your measurement, you're still going to get the same thing. Alright, so from there I went ahead to add my seam allowance, which is 1.5 all the way down. And then on the armhole line I removed 1 inch. Remember, that's what I did for the front, and then connect the shoulder to meet the armhole, just like what you are seeing on the screen. So I went ahead to cut out my pattern. Remember, here is the same 1.5. So if you are sewing or you are cutting it for someone, just make sure you notch your 1.5. So I'm getting rid of the back dart. Now you can see the back goes in just like what you're seeing, and I've so placing the front pattern beside the back pattern, you notice that the front pattern is kind of longer because of the 2 inches. Alright, so but when you fold the dart, you're going to get the exact measurement. So that's the magic that comes with the side dart. Also, that's all. So I went ahead to label front and the back pattern just to differentiate them. Alright, so I went to, since there is joining, so I went ahead to cut it on the half length. So after I was done, I went ahead to label it because I was scared of making mistake. You notice the pattern is kind of the same, so you have to always label your pattern. After I was done, I went ahead to cut out the fabric, cut it on fabric just like what you're seeing, both the upper part and the lower part. Alright, and make sure you notch your side dart just like what you're seeing right now. Make sure you notch it. And don't forget, I'm still going to show you how to sew the side dart. Alright, because you don't just measure it like that and start sewing. So you can see I've gone ahead to cut it. I've cut it and I've already replicated the pattern because of the keyhole in front of the dress. So I'm going to gum these two patterns together just like what you're seeing on the screen. One doesn't have to climb on the other, no, just place it beside each other and then use your masking tape to gum it just like what you're seeing on the screen. After I was done, you can see, looking at it now, you see that there is one doesn't has to be on each other. So from there I was scared of making the keyhole to be big, so I just had to trace it a little more. I was just being careful, I was just being skeptical about it, just like what you're seeing. I was just using my initiative, and then this was it. So I wasn't sure I went ahead to cross check the picture and then cut it out just like what you're seeing on the screen. So you can see even after I trace it, I didn't cut it to the end. But later on, I checked the picture and I realized that it's not going to be showing um, my breast like that. And then I trim it off. So if you want yours to be more than this, you can do it. So I went ahead to cut the down paper, the lower part rather, the like I've cut the front and even the back, everything. So on the front side, it has this shape. I don't know how to call it, like a box shape. So from the side, I went down by 5 inch. Remember the length of this thing is 10 inches plus the sewing allowance, making 11 inches. So I marked it and then connect it. I just like what you are seeing on the screen to have that shape. After doing that, I went to the side as well. Sorry, I was just being careful. I didn't want the chalk to be too bold on the dress. Alright, I went by the side and marked 5 inch and then connect it just like what you're seeing on the screen. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to cut it. Sorry guys, I know the chalk is not really bold. So the cloth is kind of white. So I was just being skeptical about it. I didn't want the chalk to stain on it. So I went ahead to trim it. So that's the outcome of the dress, of the lower part. And don't forget to notch the center of the dress. So on the back too, I didn't see the back view. Alright, I don't know how the bag looked like, so I just assume it to be the same bags style. So I went to the side by 5 inch, just like what I did on the front, and I connected it. I sure wanted to be careful. Alright, and then connect it, just like what you're seeing on the screen. After I was done doing that, I went ahead to cut the lower part that we are going to be using for gathers. So what I did was I measured 27 inches for the lower part. So the total of what I used from my waist downward is 38 inches. Alright, remember I used 10 inches before. So from the length is 28 and the side measurement is, I folded it into 4 and I got 25, which is total of 100 yards, 100 inches rather. So after I was done doing that, the next thing is to sew. So I went ahead to replicate the fabric. You can cut lining for it. Alright, cut your lining just like what you're seeing. So it's time to sew. So I've gone ahead to sew it. Sew the neckline. That's what you are going to do. Sew the neckline. Even for the front, the keyhole, you have to be careful. Be careful with how you are going to cut it. Do not make mistake. And I've gone ahead to put paper stay on the neckline, just like what you are seeing on the screen, both front and back. And after I was done, I went ahead to sew it and then notch the neck. So this is actually the back neck. So I've gone ahead to notch it. And so after notching it, I'm going to go ahead to top stitch it for it to lay properly. So just like what you're seeing on the screen, that's what I'm going to do. I went ahead to notch it. So for the front, I placed the front, the fabric together and just sew it like that. So after I was done, I went ahead to iron it. I saw the down part. I remember I added 1.5, just like what you're seeing. Look at the 1.5 there. I saw it. I went ahead to iron it as well. I opened the zipper allowance and iron it. So after that, I went ahead to iron the back as well. I notch it and I iron it. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to brace it down together, like the lining and the fabric itself. And this is the keyhole. You can see it's coming out, and I've also ironed it. So after sewing the keyhole, the next thing I did was to go ahead and sew the neckline. So remember, when I got to that point, I make sure I notch it for it to lay properly. I mean the keyhole neck, the keyhole line. Alright, that place that looks like V. After I finished doing that, I went ahead to sew the neckline, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and I've already ironed it. So after I was done doing that, it was time to do the shoulder joining. Alright, go ahead and do the shoulder joining, just like what you're seeing. You sew it. Since it's going to be sleeveless, so I make sure I use my pin. The sewing together, I make sure I use my pin to hold it together. And for the side that has the keyhole, I did the same thing as well, but I was careful with that one because I've already cut it out. So the only solution I did was to sew it down, sew it as gathers, measure the length of the other sleeves in order to get it, like the distance from that was what I got like 3 inches. So I needed them to be together. So all I did was to go ahead and join them together and sew, just like what you are seeing on the screen here. You just have to be careful when doing something like this. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to iron it rather. You can see after I finished sewing, I went ahead to open it and iron it so that the shoulder joining can be flat. Just like what you're doing, the keyhole as well, I've done the same thing as well. But what happened there, I can see I separated the joining. The gap was not much, so it really went well. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead. It was time to turn the armhole. You can't use bias to hold it. No. All you need to do is learn how to do it. So after I was done doing that, this is how I did the joining. You flip your hand, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and then turn it. Pick one side of the front and on one side of the back and sew it. When you sew it to a certain point, pause and then come back to continue on the second line, just like what you are seeing on the screen. Then flip it, just like what you are seeing. The same inch that you started is what you are going to continue. Sew it all the way down. You just have to be careful. So I went ahead to do the same thing on the second hand, just like what you are seeing on the screen. But if you really want me to make a video on how to sew this kind of armhole to turn it, just let me know in the comment section. Please, if you like this video, do not forget to share, do not forget to like, do not forget to subscribe. Alright, so you can always get notification whenever I post a new video. So this is the keyhole side. So just like what you did, you pick one side of the front and one side of the back and then sew it. There it was kind of tiny, alright, so but I was determined to do it. And then after I finished sewing it, it was very beautiful. At least you saw it on me, right? So this is it. After I was done doing that, I went ahead to iron it. One of the things I like doing is as I'm sewing, I'm ironing my clothes. I'm giving it a press because that's just the best way to get your clothes done neatly. So it was time to sew the side dart. I went ahead to measure the side dart, which is 6.5. Remember 6.5, you are going to minus 1. Instead of saying 6.5, you are going to sew 5.5 where you notch, just like what you're seeing. Remember, we notch it, then measure 5.5 and sew your dart. So after I was done doing that, I ironed it and it was time to for me to sew the gathers. And after sewing the gathers, I join it to the lower part, just like what you are seeing on the screen. Just be careful when you are doing it. Take your time, especially the gathers. You can sew like 2 inches. After I was done, I put it on the mannequin, and this is the outcome of it. All right, and I also wore it, which is the first video you saw. So thanks for